Okay, so we're talking about how construction drawings are organized or put together. We are in Unit 1 of the textbook. So we will pick up with that again. Before I get started, any questions or comments? Who was that just? Okay, Gabriel, I'll chat with you more at the end of class, or I'll try to. Good question, Jose. How long does it usually take for someone to make a blueprint? You're talking about someone, a human being, to physically do the drawing, or a machine to reproduce it? How long it takes a human being to physically do the drawing in the days when drawing was done by hand is going to probably entirely depend on the the skill and the experience of the draftsperson, but probably it's going to take quite some time. You might spend a day or 2 days doing a drawing. That's the advantage, or at least the business advantage of AutoCAD, is it speeds up the process of producing drawings. In terms of how long does it take a machine to make a blueprint, to reproduce a hand drawing, only a couple minutes. But to physically draw it is going to depend entirely on how much information it's there. Does that make sense, Jose? Oh, you're very welcome. Okay, so again, types of drawings. We're going to look at a plan drawing, a plan, an elevation, a section, and a detail. So we'll see what each of those types of drawings look like. Again, we're going to use various views of the building, of the structure, so to convey to the construction team, to the general contractor, the people that are building the building, convey to them what it is that the intent of the designer is. Right, so a plan drawing, let me see where this sits in the textbook. If you happen to be following along, a plan drawing means that we are, again, looking down from above. We're typically slicing the building through at the 4-foot level, give or take, and we're showing the features that exist in the building. Sometimes there will be furnishings or appliances. Again, the plan is kind of the key drawing that helps the construction team kind of put all the other pieces together. So again, plan view, looking down, a horizontal section through the building. An elevation, looking at it from the front or the side or in the rear, meant to show the exterior features of the building. In this case, there's some rendering added to convey some additional information. Again, here's another set of elevations. Again, there's been some rendering done to help visualize what's going on. A section means that we are slicing through the building vertically, and this will help convey additional information, additional detail. And now you see on this particular section, there's some other stuff called out, right? These symbols here, and it's a little hard to see. This, I think, is just some images we added to what was in the book. I think the book explains it as well, but the section or the plan will have keys to additional views in the set of drawings. So again, these symbols are typically keyed to a detail somewhere else in the drawing set. These symbols are keyed to other sections or elevations elsewhere in the drawing set. So when you're looking at the set of drawings, you have to see how the how sections and details are related to each other. Let's go back to the plan, right? This particular plan is making reference to other elevations that might appear elsewhere in the drawing set. This section has references to other details that are going to exist elsewhere in the drawing set. Typically, this will be, it's again a little hard to see here, but and it might depend on the convention that the architect or the draftsperson is using, but this probably is going to be a section number and the drawing or excuse me, a detail number and the drawing that detail appears on. Sections is, remember, we have plans, elevations, sections, and details. Each of those things is giving us a different view and different sets of detail. Again, the plan is looking down. That's going to help us see the overall organization. The elevation is an exterior view of the building. In the section now, we've sliced the building in, right? This is an east-west, this particular one's an east-west section. So we've cut the building. We've made a slice in the building. We're looking one way or the other in that slice, and that allows us to visualize or convey certain information that can't necessarily be shown or is difficult to show in plan, right? How this stair system works would be difficult to convey in plan. It's easier to convey what's going on in section. And then details would be, as the name implies, a larger scale view of something specific, so you can see exactly how things are meant to be put together. So hold that thought for a minute and let me get through this, and so hopefully it'll come together for you. Right, again, here are examples of building sections. Right, we may, in this case, we've sliced through the whole building, and we may also have just a section. This is a wall section, right? We're just showing what the wall itself looks like. Right, here's an example of a detail. So again, on a section, We might reference the detail. The detail could be shown on the same drawing. The detail could be shown on another drawing. But this detail gives a lot of information about, in this case, materials that would be difficult to convey. This detail will be at a larger scale. It gives you information that would be hard for you to convey at a smaller scale, right? Remember, scale is, a couple of weeks ago, we looked at the architectural scale. Scale might be a 1/4 inch scale or an 1/8 inch scale. So a 1/4 inch scale means that each 1/4 of an inch on the drawing represents an inch in reality. And as we get to larger scales, it allows us to take bigger views of things, right? This detail might be at 1.5 inch scale. Again, the drawing should indicate the scale of the particular plan or section or detail. Right, again, here's a detail. Right, and this particular one is an axiometric view, right? So we're turning something sideways, again, to show additional information about how this stair, in this case, the stair system is put together. Okay, now I'm, I think, jumping back to what's in the textbook. So we're going to kind of walk through a typical set of drawings. So now I'm on typical print, starting on page 5 of the textbook. Again, as we as Triton instructors have taught this class, we've added additional information to the PowerPoints we got from the textbook manufacturer to try to show additional information. But quite often a set of drawings, I don't know about you, I've got the pointer moving around on my screen here. I don't know if that's just my imagination or what it is. Let me turn the pointer off. Seems to have a mind of its own today. Actually, I have multiple pointers. That's weird. Anyways, on the title sheet, you see a number of things listed. Typically, there will be an index that shows all the drawings that are in the drawing set, and we'll see what each of those mean. Members of the project team might be listed, the owner, architect, sub-consultants underneath them. This particular title sheet has some notes and abbreviations and symbols, a date. Quite often there'll be a date or some information about what revisions of the drawing it is. Those are the sorts of things that you might see on the title sheet, right? On page 5 of the textbook, other items included on the title sheet include the abbreviation lists, materials, legends, symbols, maybe a site map. Oftentimes you'll see on the title sheet or one of the early sheets, a site map that shows where the particular project site is located, relative to the surrounding streets. Right? Those are the types of things that you might see on a title sheet. Typically, we will designate the different drawings with the letter to distinguish them from one another to help us organize or classify them. So the G for the general drawings might show some overall information about the project. How it's meant to be phased, if it's going to be built in phases or different pieces. Where contractors, how they access the site, where they stage materials, where they put their dumpsters, where contractor parking is, fencing, right? Things like that may appear on the G or the general drawings. The C for civil drawings will typically be a site plan. So we might see contour lines on the civil drawings that show changes in elevation on a site, just like we would see on a topographical map, right? So contour drawings the contour lines on the civil drawing, might show if there's a slope or a change in elevation on the site, right? The civil drawings are going to show the, roads or driveways that are on the site. They're likely to show the site utilities, where the water supply is, where the sewer is, how the sewer from the building connects to the sewer main that's in the road in front of the building. We might see landscaping on the civil drawing, or we could have a separate L drawing, a separate set of drawings for landscaping. Civil drawings will typically have property lines. So again, all the things that help us identify the building in its context. And as you see, the drawings are kind of organized conceptually, right? They may represent, at least in general terms, the sequence in which the building would be built, right? So we see general, and then we look at the site. The structural drawings start to show how the building is put together, what the foundation is, how deep is the foundation, what do the footings look like, the structural steel or the support systems of the building. The architectural drawings will include a lot of things we just talked about, the floor plans, elevations, sections, details. On the architectural drawings, we might also have finish schedules, door schedules, room finish schedules, right? What color is the wall to be painted? Is it meant to be plaster or drywall? Is the floor in that room meant to be tile, or is it carpeted, et cetera, et cetera? Those are all things that would be in a room finish schedule, right? That the probably in looking at all the drawings, the architectural drawings probably represent more than what would be in the other sections. And then we have for the systems, we're going to have plumbing and mechanical and electrical. You see the classifications that are in bold are the ones that are more common or most common, but we might have other, depending on the type of building we're building, we might have some of these other types of drawings, right? Landscape drawing, right? If there's a lot of trees or plantings that are being done as part of the project, we might have additional detail of that stuff on a landscape drawing. Geotechnical has to do with soil conditions, what type of soil that we're building on. We might have done soil borings. We might have sampled the soil to give the construction team information about what they're likely to run into when they start digging in the ground. Interiors, there could be additional information if there's fit outs or furnishings, specialized equipment in a commercial building, fire protection, right? If the building has a sprinkler system, a wet or dry a piped sprinkler system typically is going to be on the fire protection drawings. The fire alarm system is generally going to be on the E or the electrical drawings. D for process would be if there's specialized piping systems. Let's say if we're doing an industrial project or if we're doing a hospital, right? We not only is there going to be, hot and cold water, but there, envision a hospital, there's going to be process piping, right? There's going to be oxygen and compressed air, those sorts of things in it would be process piping in a hospital, or a laboratory building is going to have process piping as well. Mechanical will be the heating, ventilating, and air conditioning. E for electrical, again, I mentioned typically the fire alarm will be there, the power, the lighting, the receptacles, any equipment. Distributed energy, if there happens to be, solar or some renewable energy system, that might be on the W drawings. T for telecommunication, right? If we have Ethernet in the building or a telephone system, probably nowadays it's going to be Ethernet. It's going to show where all those Ethernet drops are. The drawings might include these contractor shop drawings, right? Typically, a shop drawing means that the contractor who's responsible for this particular trade may redraw certain things that show additional details. For instance, let's say the structural drawings will show in general terms how the steel is meant to be used to build the building. There would be a shop drawing typically done by a structural steel contractor that would show additional detail of that steel. Might be where the bolt holes are, or what the welds are going to look like, right? That's all additional stuff in the shop drawings. Typically, a shop drawing is done by a contractor and submitted to the architect for review or approval. Again, these letter and number designations aren't cast in, right? Not every set of drawings, as you'll see if we have a chance tonight or on Thursday, we'll look at some typical drawings and walk through some drawing sets. This use of letters and numbers is not followed on every single set of drawings, but it's typical for practice. Right, so again, we might have A1 dot something something something, right? So architectural, 1 for plan, and then plans being sequentially numbered. Again, that might be a typical way that the drawings are identified, and hopefully this is all spelled out on the title sheet. So you as a, let's say as a contractor looking through that set of drawings, you know where to find the information you're looking for. Right, so here's an example of a C or a civil drawing, and this happens to be figure 1.3 on page 7 of the textbook. You can probably see it a little better there than you can on my screen here. But again, in this case, you see the building shown with the streets around it, the property lines, the parking, right? So here are the surrounding streets, 16th Avenue, West Creek Drive. This is probably a a property line with setback from the property line. Here's the drives and the parking and the walkway from parking to the entrance of the building. There's a note here talking about that the materials of the walkway. And again, I don't have the whole set of drawings, but I'm going to guess that these little boxes here refer to additional details shown someplace else. So those are the sorts of things you would find on a C or a civil drawing. You see a scale. Right, in this case, it's an engineering scale, so 1 inch equals 30 feet, right, differing from the architectural scale that we will typically see for the other sets of drawings. So again, there's a scale. We quite often see an indication of which way is north, so we can orient ourselves. We might have true north and project north. Quite often, if the building is not oriented strictly north-south, right, that's easy in a lot of Chicago. We're in a grid in Chicago where everything runs east-west and north-south. But let's say we happen to be in a town where the street grid is not oriented strictly north and south. Then we might have a planned north and a true north, again to help the construction team orient which way the building is meant to face. Right, the structural plan or the framing plan shows how that structure is meant to be constructed. Right, in a wood framing plan, the size and location of joists, concrete framing. Right, we talked last week about rebar and wire mesh. Right, so the concrete framing plan will have details of the thicknesses and the reinforcement that's called for in various locations. The framing plan might have a schedule, or there might be a schedule in the specifications that shows the different concrete mix that's used in different areas. Right, so here I'm on figure 1.4, page 8 in the book. Again, it's probably a little easier to see in the textbook if you have it in front of you. In this case, you see notes calling out the columns. Right here, there's a designation of W21 by 50, right? So we're calling out, remember W21 by 50 would be a 21 inch, a W-shaped I-beam 21 inches deep and 50 pounds per linear foot, right? So we're calling out, the designer is calling out the type of steel that's meant to be used. and various notes and details. Right, so that's the sort of things that you would find on the structural drawing. Right, here's our floor plan. Now we're in the A drawings. Again, that floor plan is a horizontal section, so we've sliced the building horizontally, right, 4 foot, give or take, above the finished floor elevation. And in this case, we're showing the layout of the rooms, maybe furnishings or appliances. This is one of the residential projects we'll see later in the semester, right? So this particular plan has additional information on it, has some of the electrical and plumbing shown, right, in a residential project. If there's not a tremendous amount of detail, you may have, various trades combined on one plan. I think when we get into residential drawings, we'll see that. I don't see any indication of any sections or details here. But again, in the textbook, you see that the plan conveys a fair bit of information about the organization of spaces in the building or in the home. Right, here is an elevation. Again, this is figure 1.6 in the book, right? So we're showing what the outside of the building looks like. This gives us a sense of the finished materials that are going to be used, right? Split-faced CMU, right? Remember, CMU is a concrete block or a concrete masonry unit. Split-faced means that there's texturing on the outside. These symbols here refer to elevations, right? So elevation of 100 feet and top of masonry 117.4, right? So we know that this dimension here is 17 feet 4 inches. So in an elevation drawing, we may see information about things such as this, how floor to floor dimensions would be shown with elevations. This is likely to indicate a section somewhere else, so we might have section number 2 on drawing A4-01. These letters here, K, J, H, are typically going to indicate column lines. So if the building is being built of structural steel, envision the organization of the columns that hold the building up. So quite often the columns will be designated in lines with numbers and letters. I just envision a checkerboard with the column lines being as rows on the checkerboard. Yes, Nicole, that is correct. Let me look at what it says in the drawings. Yes, that dotted line in this case, let's just take another look. Yes, I would assume that dotted line shows the footing. Again, to be sure, I might go back because hopefully someplace they have a set of symbols and hopefully there's a symbol that shows that particular dotted line, what that actually means. But I think that's a fair guess. If I was the if I was the excavation contractor, the person responsible for the foundation, I would make it my business to know exactly what that means. If I'm the glazing contractor supplying the windows, I probably don't care that terribly much about the footing, right? That's going to be somebody else's business. So to some extent, this can depend on what your role is in the project. You may pay more or less attention to something depending on whether it's something that you are supplying or that your trade or your contract is responsible for. Right here is a section. Right, again, we are cutting through the building and showing how the building looks cut apart. A couple of things we see here. Right, we see these elevation symbols. Again, this is figure 1.7 on page 11. You might be able to see it better there. Right, so these elevations are showing the vertical distances between various features. Right, here's FIN floor, so finished floor elevation is 100 foot 0 inches, and the next finished floor up here is 113 feet 6 inches. So we have a floor to floor dimension of 13 feet 6 inches, right? That's how much distance there is between each level of the building. Up top here, you see the acoustic ceiling. That's what I'm guessing ACC means. Elevation of 122.6. Right, so that would tell us how tall the ceilings are on this, if it's the second floor of the building. You see an elevation of this intermediate landing. Right, these details are likely going to refer to a detail number on another drawing someplace. Right, so this little box says 9A12. So if I was interested in exactly how this stair rail is put together, I would go to drawing A12 and look at detail 9 or detail 10 on drawing A12. Right, again, here's a detail. Right, this says roof hatch detail. This is figure 1.8. So again, conveying additional information that we can't show elsewhere, right? Because the scale is too small. And with that, why don't we stop here? We're almost through unit number 1. Let me ask if anyone has any questions. Okay, we will pick this up here on Thursday. Okay, Olivia, well, that's good. I think I sent a couple of you a note in the chat because I did not see your test up, so hopefully you have submitted and corrected that problem. I will go back again and send you an email if I don't see something. But again, on Tuesdays, I'll give you an announcement ahead of time. Usually on Sundays, I'm working on getting things put together for the week. So if you go to Blackboard, you should generally see an announcement. I'll certainly tell you if we're having a quiz that Tuesday. So please check Blackboard, check your Triton email. That's how I communicate with you. I did put an extra credit out there, so if you're so inclined, you want to pick up some extra credit, you can certainly do that assignment. Any other questions? Ayana, you have a question? Sorry.
Oh, no, just wondering, did we ever get a chance to discuss that other article that you sent about the building codes? And I guess the people, they were gonna like make it, I don't know, the someone with the building code people changing the rules or trying to modify the rules or something.
Why don't you hold that thought and let's tackle that first thing on Thursday. Someone just asked about the quiz. Yeah, let's tackle that on Thursday, so hold that thought. Someone asked about the quiz. I think I still have some. There was one of you who still has to do the quiz from week number 2, and I think I reminded that person, and I'll remind you again in the chat here to go and finish your quiz from week 2. I have the quiz set up such that everyone has to complete the quiz before it's made available, right? So I'm going to send a couple of reminder chats out here. So let me do that. Well, you're very welcome, Anna. You have a great night as well. Yes, I'll be back on Thursday, and hopefully I'll see all of you as well.